Hey guys, welcome back to Live from the Nest here in Los Angeles with the Hawke Media team. Very excited to have Ben Parr here, the president and co-founder of Octane AI. Really excited to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got a much longer title for you. We've got Forbes 30 Under 30. We've got the co-editor of Mashable. We've got the author of Captivation. We've got a lot of great things to talk about today. But thanks for making some time.
No, thank you for having me. It's nice to be back in this nice and beautiful place.
Yeah, it's cool. We got the glass behind us. You actually get like a live peek into the.
You got the real equipment, the real sound equipment. It's great.
Yeah, it's definitely an expense that we get to pass along to the clients, right? Because a lot of the clients get to use it for a lot of other things, but we get to use it as well.
Yeah, for doing awesome things like this. Next up, we're gonna just have to do an improv show on here.
Yeah, which it might turn into right now.
I mean, that's pretty much how all my interviews go.
Yeah, exactly. Well, excited to have you, man. If you wouldn't mind, just give us a quick walkthrough or background of what you've been doing and kind of how you ended up in this position.
So, what I'm doing today, and then I'll talk a little bit past quick, is I'm the president and co-founder of Octane AI, and Octane AI is the real-time marketing platform for e-commerce. So, what does that mean? It means that we provide all the automation and all the technology for communicating with your customers over the new channels that are real time. That's Messenger, Facebook Messenger, and SMS, and a lot more coming. And so we provide the ability to reach out to them in the same way you might use something like a Klaviyo or another email service provider that you're using, but reaching customers where they are. Yeah. So, and then we're going to talk about this more, but email's been really critically important, and it's a really important cornerstone, but you must adopt, if you really want to reach your customers and you really want to work on converting them, you have to reach them across channels, because they don't just check email. They're spending most of their time actually on messaging apps. They're spending most of their time messaging with their friends. And all the statistics show, like, for example, if a consumer messages with a brand, they are on average going to spend 7% more than they would have otherwise.
Yeah.
And we've seen on our end, that if, for example, if you're sending abandoned cart messages over Messenger, 1 out of 9 of those messages convert into a sale, which is higher than in the email conversion rate. And so it's kind of like you want to create that full stack. And so we provide the technology for that. We work with over 1,000 e-commerce brands. We work with everything from Proactive and GoPro to like Manscapes and a lot of fast-growing brands to a lot of awesome Hawke brands too.
Amazing.
And so, we've been building that kind of thing. Before that, I was the editor of Mashable, and I wrote a book on the science and psychology of attention. So I've had a couple different random careers here and there. Yeah. But the last couple of years has been focused on just building Octane AI and building the best real-time marketing platform possible.
Well, you've worked on some incredible brands. We're very thankful, by the way, of Octane AI, right? Because it helps us do our job more effectively. It's interesting. As it sounds like you've got a long career in e-commerce and brand development, as do I. Been underneath the hood of a lot of brands for a long time, and it's crazy to just see the change, right? When lifecycle marketing first came about, the conversion rates, the open rates were so much higher, right? On email, it was just kind of a no-brainer, and it still is an integral part of any sort of direct-to-consumer e-commerce funnel. But when you start to look at the reduced factor of email in terms of open rate and click-through rate, right now if someone sees an ad, less than 1 in 1,000 people convert on the first time they click through, and it's probably much lower than that. That's a metric from about a year or two ago. So talk to me about where you saw the need for Octane AI and where you're able to add value.
So let's talk about it in terms of the customer lifecycle, right? And so, in the broad terms of the customer lifecycle is the introduction, the acquisition, and then it's the warming up of that lead, of that person. It's that nurturing cycle till they convert, and then afterwards. And you and I were talking about this even before the podcast. It takes, in the past, you could have converted people maybe on 2 touches. Now the average is 12 to 20 touches. Yeah. It takes a lot of time because there's so many different choices that a consumer has. You need to introduce them to your brand, to your product. Yep. And so, but the benefit is once you've introduced them, once you've got them through that funnel, now you could really expand upon that. And there's that nurturing, just as important as acquiring the customer is retaining the customer and increasing their value and increasing the value you provide them. And so we saw a couple of major holes in that entire cycle. So the one obvious one is your customers are on Messenger and SMS, and you're not talking to them. It is as no-brainer as doing email.
Yeah.
Like if you were talking to a brand and they're not doing any email, you'd be like, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
And like, there's still actually a whole bunch of e-commerce brands I meet that are not even doing email yet.
Yeah.
And they're just, because they're starting out, they're like figuring something out. They coasted on like the retail side that they've had.
Yeah.
And now they have to figure it out. And an important part is the tools to help you acquire customers, and the tools to nurture, and then the tools to continue nurturing after conversion.
Yep.
And so the things where we plug in the holes is hitting customers on these channels where instead of having open rates of 5 to 15%, the open rates for Octane AI on average are 80 to 95% on Messenger and SMS, depending on the channel.
And just like let that sink in for a second, because like if you're a marketer, those metrics are insane, right? Like the open rate, you're seeing common open rates, 10, 15, maybe 20% on email, 85+% open rate on SMS and Messenger. That's crazy.
It is crazy. But it's also that conversion rate. So
Yep.
we see our average click-through rate across Octane AI is 43%. That's also ridiculously high. And so the end result is that the conversion rate is significantly higher. And I think of it as is this, and we've done the research, which is the more channels you are connected to a customer through, the higher their average value. So we found, for example, that if you're connected to someone on email and Messenger, they're going to be worth 30%. Like their average like value to you, their
Yep.
customer value is 30% higher than if they were just connected to you on one channel.
Yep.
And then even more if they're on 3 channels. And so you want to be able to have like those multiple different ways to reach a person, not sending them all the stuff at the same time. Let's be clear. There's easy ways to coordinate all 3 together, but make it a really good experience. Because think about the relationship you and I have as human beings. I'll email you, text you, call you, meet up with you in person, but that's all one chain. That's one set of interactions. We know like each step. Traditionally, for an e-commerce brand or any brand, those things have not been connected, right? You might email a brand and maybe you can message a brand, but those 2 things are not connected, and so the experience is disjointed. When really it should be part of one cycle. It should know that I sent you an email 3 days ago, so I should send you I could send you a follow-up over SMS. Yep. Or I figured out that you're more likely to answer on Messenger, so I send it on there. And make it so that I'm not going to like hit you with like 8 abandoned carts on 4 different platforms in the span of 20 minutes, but over the course of, like, for example, this is part of that life cycle. I think of it all as one schedule of a life cycle. So if someone abandons a cart, for example, a cycle that we see a lot with our customers is they first send a Facebook message within the first half hour to an hour. If they don't convert, then about 4 hours later, you send an email, which makes sense. And then if they don't convert at that point, then about 24 hours later, you send an SMS message. And so you've hit people maximizing your chance of conversion, because some people don't open email, but they open Messenger. Some people don't open SMS, but they open email. And you maximize your chance of reaching people in different ways. And of course, if they convert at any point, they're not going to receive the rest of that sequence. And so it's not going to like bother them. And because it's spaced out and timed out, it's not something that's intrusive. So you've maximized everything. To me, that's a no-brainer, and it's not hard to set up.
And the other thing to add, I mean, you fill 2 voids, right? The first one is we talked. You got to touch somebody 12 to 20-ish times to get them to convert. So you give them an opportunity to touch, right? You can't just keep drilling people on just Facebook or just Instagram. You've got to hit them on email, SMS, Messenger, etc. Obviously, organic social is another place. But also adding value to that mix, as opposed to just saying, hey, here's 20% off. You forgot your thing. You forgot your T-shirt, here's 20% off, here's 20% off, here's 20% off, right? You get to be annoying at that point. What you can do is you can add value with different types of content. So would you add some color to, you mentioned or you talked about the sequence. What's the content of that sequence sometimes look like? Maybe you want to pick a brand that you're working with.
So content on messaging is definitely different, and it needs to be focused on like an email, longer form, more photos, more all that sort of thing, longer form kind of pieces of content. Messaging, short, quick, with like emojis or GIFs, just the way you would talk with a person, right? And we see the highest conversion rates as something like simple and straightforward, and being like, yes, you can like be offering something, just getting to the point, which is the point of messaging, which is one of its beauties. The other thing that there is an advantage of messaging, though, which is it allows for a back and forth. And so, example is one of our customer Skitty Mixes has this amazing sequence where like they offer like a free bottle, and that results in like people like on their site it has like a chatbot, the messenger like widget, and it'll offer like a free bottle, and it'll go through a sequence. It'll recommend different products, ask them different questions. They can go back and forth, and the result is they get to the product they're actually looking for. It's an insanely high conversion rate, and it really drives tons and tons of sales because now you've actually learned more about the customer. Now, not just can you recommend a product automatically, but now in the future when you're sending not just messages, but emails or text messages, you can have it really tailored. You know that this person has dry skin versus oily skin. You can know that this person is even as simple as a man or a woman.
Wow.
You know this person is looking for bold coffee versus light coffee.
Yeah.
And all these different things make the experience better. Part of our goal at Octane AI is to make that shopping experience more personalized and better for the consumer. Rather than you getting 20 emails, it should just be one message and maybe one email that is, I know what you're looking for, what you're like this. It's like a concierge. It's like an actual, like the same kind of experience that you get when you walk into the store.
Yeah.
And like someone recommends, you should be able to have that experience online too.
Yeah. And you also add that convenience factor, right? I think a lot of the times brands will come and they're frustrated about performance on a specific channel. And they're like, hey, I don't understand why this isn't performing. And they've only got their website and they've got advertising and that's it. They've got nothing outside of that. And a lot of the times that's just not enough to add convenience to the customer because maybe somebody only checks Facebook when they're at work. And so they look at work, they're probably not going to buy something while they're on the clock. They're just kind of killing time.
Yeah.
Whereas if you communicate with that person via text or SMS or email or all three or a combination, when they get home, then they wanted to buy the product. They're interested in the product, but now they're getting given a timely promotion, 10, 15% off, or maybe a buy one, get one, or whatever it may be, at a time where they're ready to go. And so you add that convenience as well.
So there's one other piece I want to make sure to mention, because another part of the life cycle where you may not necessarily think Messenger and SMS will help a lot, but it really does, is at the acquisition stage. This is actually something you all are really good at, better than most. You've been using our conversational ads functionality.
Yeah.
So a traditional Facebook ad is you create a targeted group, you have an ad, you hope they click, and then you hope they convert. Yeah. And as we were talking about before, the conversion rates are really, really, like, it takes a lot of time, and you got to nurture them and all that sort of thing. You will, for example, Hawke's been running a lot of click-to-messenger ads for your clients.
Yep.
And the click-to-messenger ad is just like a traditional Facebook ad, except when you click it, it drops you into a messenger sequence. And it opts you in for Facebook messages. What that means is it becomes an ad that can follow up with the customer. Because now you're opted in, now it can follow up with cart and browse abandonment, it can ask for email and phone number, it can recommend products. And on average, for a lot of our customers, they end up to doubling the return on ad spend by using our conversational ads feature, because a lot of people who drop off at these different points, the messenger piece will gently remind them, gently bump them to that next level. Mm-hmm. If they go to the site and they don't add something to cart, it'll hit them with a browse abandonment. If they add to cart and they don't finish, cart abandonment. Yep. Or just like the general welcome series. And you don't have to get an additional opt-in on the site in order to get them opted in for a channel that you could message them on. So you're guaranteed with these conversational ads to have a channel that you can send them a message on. And the result is higher conversion rates, and now you've built up a larger audience, not just on your Messenger, but because Messenger has this awesome functionality where you can when you ask for email and phone number, this is a functionality we provide, where when you ask for email or phone number, it'll pre-populate it from their Facebook account. Mm-hmm. And when they just click a button, it'll share it with you. Yep. So it's an easy opt-in for, I also want to give you my email for a discount, or I want to give you my email so you can send me something else. Mm-hmm. And that way you have multiple touch points. Again, the more multiple touch points, the more unified the profile you can make on the consumer. And
the user or consumer is also kind of selecting which one they want you to communicate with, right?
Right.
They'll say, hey, actually, email's better for me because I don't check Facebook Messenger. Or I like text. You can kind of select. And those personalization tactics make a huge difference.
There's literally a bunch of 15 to 18-year-olds who do not have email addresses.
Yeah.
Just do not use email.
But they want a promotion.
Right.
Yeah.
They all have phone numbers. Uh-huh. They all text on Messenger or SMS, you want to reach them there.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of older demographic that love Facebook Messenger only, right? Like that's like my mom DMs me stuff on Facebook all the time.
Yep.
Right? So if she got a discount on her Facebook Messenger, I'm sure she'd open it right away. And so there's so many different things that you can do. And I love the way e-commerce is elevating in the way that it's very, very competitive. There's so many industries, there's so many agencies, there's so many platforms and tools, but it's really platforms and tools like Octane AI that are able to make a difference, and a quantitative difference where you can actually see, okay, this person entered your funnel and they just went to email, this is what happened. They went to SMS or Messenger and email, and this is what happened. And those tangible results are things that we get to put on our weekly agenda that make us look very, very smart. Well, you wrote a book called Captivology. If you wouldn't mind, just kind of summarize that for us and help kind of give the takeaways to some of the listeners.
So before Octane AI and after my time at Mashable, I was an investor, and I was investing in early stage companies. And the kinds of questions they always asked me for help on were the same, which was, how do I get customers? How do I get users? How do I get press? How do I market my product? Which really all that falls around the same topic. The key theme is attention. How do I get attention? And so I started doing some research in the subject and looking through some papers because I thought it would help my companies. And I just got really fascinated. There's all this amazing research on how attention works and the psychology of it and how it affects memory. And I did like this deeper dive, and I decided this was something I needed to write about. I have had book offers over the years, but it was the first time I really found something that I felt like I needed to go and surface. And so I spent 2 years writing this book, did a deal with HarperCollins, interviewed over 100 people, both the world's like leading PhDs in attention and memory, as well as the world's like top business leaders, so like Sheryl Sandberg and Steven Soderbergh, David Copperfield, the magician, the creator of Super Mario, Shigeru Miyamoto.
Amazing.
And that book is Captivology, The Science of Capturing People's Attention, which you can find on any bookstore, your Amazons, your Barnes & Nobles, wherever books are sold. I'm required in every podcast to at least promote it once, according to HarperCollins.
I love it.
But the book...
Well, I downloaded it before this, so we're good to go.
So, yeah, I went in depth to understanding, like, what are the key stages of attention, because most people think of attention as something I'm paying attention or not paying attention, when really it happens in phases, and there's levels of attention.
Yeah.
And you can pay something a lot more attention, like a brand like an Apple. And it's the difference between hearing about something for the first time and lining up around the block for a new release, for like an Apple or Fortnite or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And so how do you build up that attention? What are the triggers that capture attention? And that's what the book is really goes in depth into, and it does a lot of in-depth. I went through a lot of research and interviewed a lot of PhDs to put this information together.
So how do you get people's attention?
Well, you have to, there's a great book that you can go and read to go in depth, but like to give you kind of a short, I talk about the 7 captivation triggers. And so I talk about how you get attention at different stages. So for example, in the super early stages, like, and thinking in the world of like, e-commerce especially, there's certain colors and sites and symbols that captivate our attention automatically, and I call this automaticity. And so there's a reason, for example, why Amazon buttons are yellow and orange. The higher the contrast of the buttons, more likely people are to click, and there's enough studies on this. But it also has to fit the theme of whatever you're selling. So here, like another example, if you are stranded on the side of the road and you want to have the best chance of being picked up, what color shirt do you think you should wear?
Green.
So the answer is, for men, any bright color will work, or neon or all that, because it has high contrast with the ground.
Yep. Okay.
For a woman specifically, French researcher did this research. It is red. Like you get more likely to be picked up on bright colors, but but it doubled for red. And part of it's because of a relationship to red and romanticism. In fact, if you wear a red shirt, on average, the opposite gender will sit 6 inches closer to you.
Wow.
So just all these subtle things. But then I also talk about, on the opposite end, how do you build like a reward system, or how do you build a long-term relationship? So the last trigger of the book is about the fact that we pay attention to people and things that pay attention to us, and provide us with validation, empathy, and understanding. And I talk a lot about in that chapter how this concept of the parasocial relationship. And so for a lot of people, you could feel a really deep relationship with a brand or with a celebrity, like a Taylor Swift or something, even though you haven't really met them in person, but you can feel like that relationship is as strong as your relationship with your family.
Yeah.
And the result of that, like there's a whole science around that and how we build relationships and our idolization of celebrities and all that.
Yeah.
But you can really build that out by providing empathy and providing value and providing something good to your audience, to your customers. In Taylor's world, she does this like Swiftmas where she gives gifts randomly. She stalks some of her fans, and it shows that she cares about her fans. And she doesn't have to show every fan she cares about them. She just has to show that she cares about the fan base.
Yeah.
And so she does this a couple of times, and it works out really well.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the top brands, the top e-commerce brands, you need to do the certain things that capture attention, but the long term is building a relationship. And that happens through the channels you communicate through, that happens through the branding that you have, that happens through how you present everything, the packaging, every piece of this. And if you can present this kind of like, we care, you surprise and delight your customer, they're going to become very extraordinarily loyal. And over time, they're going to be paying attention without you even have to try.
Yep.
So there's a lot more in the book.
Yeah.
I talk about everything like how mysteries and we pay attention. I talk about acknowledgement, which is the name of the last chapter, about the other tools that help us build up acknowledgement from when we're trying to capture attention, and how to defend your own attention, because it's become a world where we're constantly hit by lots and lots of stimuli. How do you manage that?
Wow. And you can see where a lot of that research probably led directly into why you created Octane AI.
Yeah, because it's a whole different kind of. I think it's just, to me, it's a channel where you can build a deeper, more personal one-on-one relationship at scale.
Yeah.
And I think that makes for a better experience and a more personalized experience.
Love it. Well, as we get into Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and as an expert both in lifecycle marketing as well as capturing attention, are there any low-hanging fruit or any tips or tricks that you would kind of want to pass along?
I mean, so there's a lot of people who are like, I shouldn't change anything, I shouldn't do anything else. But you should be, until like maybe the week or two before, like taking every advantage you can have for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Yep. So like my first obvious one, I have to say it, is turn on Messenger and SMS. Like even if it's just turn on abandoned carts, turn on browse abandonment, turn on the key flows, and then turn on a couple key opt-ins like a click to messenger ad, which just use your existing ad copy, but turn into a click to messenger ad. Yep. Turn on even just one pop-up, like exit intent. Yep. So we found in particular, exit intent works really well for Messenger, because when people are about to leave, they don't want to type in a whole thing, but they're really willing to click a button for something.
Interesting.
And so exit intent, we're like, do email for open intent. Use whatever you're using for that. That works great. For exit intent, use Messenger. Yep. And you can capture a much larger percentage of your customer base that way. And then we have this other feature called comment capture, where what it'll do is anytime someone comments on any of your Facebook posts or any of your ads, it'll send a Facebook message to that person, and if they respond back, like they opt in that way, they become a subscriber.
Wow.
And so especially for brands that have a lot of engagement, this is a super powerful way to get a lot of people into your funnel, especially if you figure out like engaging strategies on your comments and on your ads that work remarkably well. Amazing. And so that combination, you just do it now, because like that can be the difference to like several percentage points in your revenue. Yeah. Like our average, like our customers who implement our best practices, on average, they increase their overall e-commerce revenue by 7.5%. That's the average. Yeah. And some do a whole lot more too.
Yeah. That's amazing, man. Well, thank you so much for coming in. Really, really helpful to have you. Looking forward to having you on here eventually again.
I want to give one more Black Friday tip. Am I allowed?
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it.
One not related, because I did a company drop. So I would say like the one other unrelated one is really about it's like telling a story. So I think maybe this is not like, if you can tell a story even before like that Black Friday, you're telling a story leading up to Black Friday, you will have something that's more compelling. And so this is a little bit of the mystery trigger piece where like if you tell a story and I need to hear what the next piece of the story is, and it might be the story of your brand, it might be the story of something else.
Yeah.
Because like everyone expects to get a message on Black Friday, but if you're warming people up in the couple weeks before, you're telling a story and they're excited to get whatever you're going to actually send on Black Friday or the day before, you're going to have a much better conversion rate. You're building the relationship. A relationship doesn't happen in one message or one email. It happens over time. So use the next like couple weeks. Tell a story, using the channels that you have over the course of a couple of weeks.
Yep.
Create a sequence around that.
Amazing. Well, I appreciate the tip, man. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
All righty. See you guys.